And with me in studio is Menachem Etkin. He is the son of a Holocaust survivor in Belarus. His father was the only survivor of the entire family. 24 other family members were killed in the Holocaust, and now Menachem is carrying on his father's stories, his family stories, for a new generation. Menachem, thank you so much for being with me. First, tell me in your mind some of the challenges, but also maybe some of the opportunities in being the next generation, as the number of Holocaust survivors sadly dwindles with age. It's now left to the children and the grandchildren to carry on the stories. Tell me some of the challenges and the work you do.
Okay, this is actually the mission which I took upon myself. As you probably know, most of the Holocaust survivors did not speak, did not tell their stories, not even to their families sometimes. I was lucky enough that my father, who was also a teacher, he spoke publicly in television and radio stations, newspapers, and also he told us, the family, his story. It was very important for him. When we were small, he told us just bits and pieces. As we grew more and more, he told us more and more details, the entire story. It was very important for him, and he did it for many years. When he became sick, I decided that I must take this torch, if you will, and continue with it until the last day of my life, and I'm doing it since 2006, all over Israel, in front of students, soldiers, and adults in many organizations.
But you're the son of a survivor,
right?
But you're not a survivor yourself.
Right. I'm a second generation.
So do the students look at you differently? What's your interpretation of how this next generation learns from you?
Well, the students accept me very well. You should see I'm standing in front of 300 students in a school. My lecture is about 45 minutes. It's very interesting. It's an amazing survival story. They sit very quietly. The teachers are amazed how quiet they are sitting, and they listen to this lecture. And then they come with lots of questions at the end. They don't let me go. I can't even leave the place.
And you've done this lecture for hundreds of times for thousands of students at universities, for soldiers.
Right. And adults in many organizations.
As someone who loved his father and misses his father,
sure,
what does it mean for you, just as a son, to be able to speak about him and share his story of survival?
Well, this is a great privilege for me to do this, and that's why I'm doing it, actually. And I also decided that I must publish a book with his story, because I knew it very well. So I published the first book in Hebrew. It's called Lamrot Hakol Nitzachti, and I sent it to all of the Holocaust museums around the world.
And you also have an English here.
Then I translated it to English. It's called Despite Everything I Had Won.
When you know the numbers here, we have the books here on the table, that Holocaust education, there's more ignorance. Young adults and teenagers, they don't know the name Auschwitz. They don't know what the Nazis did, that there were extermination camps. Is that heartbreaking for you as the son of a survivor? And do you feel like it's your mission to...
Sure, it is heartbreaking, and this is exactly the reason why I'm doing it. It also acts as a fight against Holocaust denial, what I'm doing, which is very common around the world now, and to educate the next generation, to speak, to tell them a personal story. When they hear a personal story, what happened to one specific family, it touches their heart, they understand it very, very well, and even when they go home, they tell it to their parents, to their brothers and sisters, and so the story flows on and on to many people.
And your father survived horrible, gut-wrenching conditions in a ghetto. He saw his entire family murdered and killed, died from disease. Dozens of people, members of his family. When you share this lecture, I'm just curious, what's the #1 question you get perhaps from an Israeli audience versus perhaps an international audience? What question do people have for you that you know more than anything else they want to know?
For example, my father had a twin brother. They were together in the ghetto. My father escaped from the ghetto, and the twin brother stayed there with the aunt, holding his hand. I get a question, for example, why didn't his brother run as well? And I can't answer this question because I don't know what's the answer. I only know that my father always told us that he was the naughty one. So he did not listen to his aunt telling them, we stay here and we are not moved, when the ghetto was burning. Okay? And the Nazis' machine guns were firing after the people escaping from the ghetto towards the forest, which is 2 kilometers away. He did not listen to his aunt, and he left. He released his hand from the grasp of his aunt and started running towards the forest, and this is what saved his life. Probably the fact that he was the naughty one of the two twins.
The tiniest details, and I speak with survivors, listening to a random voice to turn left or keep running or stop can save the life, and you're able to carry on your father's legacy today.
Exactly.
Menachem, powerful stuff. Menachem Etkin, again, his lecture and his book's available. Thank you so much for sharing the story and for the work and the lectures you do. Great to have you on Daily Dose.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Jeff.